Hello, and welcome everyone to episode 10 of the Adam Hazara Show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in here on Monday, January 20th, 2025. It's got another great episode for you guys. Got a milestone. This is the 10th episode of the show, so thank you guys for tuning in this far to the all 10 episodes of this one. Up to this point, we've got some more Bruins Hoops stuff to talk about, both on the boys and girls side for Lake Braddock. So make sure, before we start, make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe once again. If you guys want to as well, make sure you hit that notification button as well so you don't miss another episode when it comes out. And also share this video with a friend. It is greatly appreciated if you do all those things. And of course, any questions through a mailbag can be put out in the chat. You can tag the show up on X at Adam Hazara Show, A in Adam, H in Hazara, and S in Show, all capitalized. Or you could email the show at theadamhazarashow@gmail.com, all lowercase letters in that one. So make sure you guys do that if you want to be part of the conversation today. So let's get started. We're going to start off some boys hoops news going on at Lake Braddock. So, of course, they're now fourth place in the Patriot District. That's coming off that very tough loss versus West Potomac, 49-35 on Thursday. They defeated Alexandria City 75-47 last week. And with that West Po loss, though, they've dropped to fourth in the standings, as I said. So that was really weak, like I said, going in. That where they really had to get down and win some games. They really wanted to get up in the standings, especially in that West Potomac game. If they won that, and it would have been third place in the standings and in prime position to be sitting very comfortably in the one of those upper spots in the standings. Now, you probably know the 1 or 2 seeds are probably going to go South County or Woodson. The 3 and 4 seeds are kind of up in the air. There's a few teams up there that could really get it. There's Fairfax, Lake Braddock, West Potomac, of course, and seems like Robinson is also in the mix there. They're a much better team this year in the week where, of course, again, they had to gain a lot of ground. What happened was they ended up winning only one of those games versus AC. Well, we said, that game, that probably should be the game we won. West Po weren't really so sure about. Because, again, that was West Po team, even though they lost a lot in the offseason due to players transferring out to Bishop O'Connell and some key seniors. That's still a team that Coach Houston is leading with a really good defense, and overall has been playing really close in a lot of games, especially against some very good teams such as, again, Lake Braddock, who they won against. South County is one where they only lost to them by 3 points. They played close with a Colonial Forge team from Stafford. That's always very good. So again, and the Bruins fortunately lost by 14 points. You expected it was going to be a bit closer, but again, the reason for that being is they probably just didn't have we saw that they didn't have Ty Clayton, of course, in the mix for Lake Braddock. Of course, I believe it was in that game versus Alexandria City that the Bruins won last week by about 30, where he got hurt. I think he had some ankle thing, we Again, he still did end up starting. Seemed like he was good enough from a get-go. Of course, he was healthy enough going in. But obviously, he was not on his A game, missing a lot of key shots. I mean, that's something that West Potomac did a really good job of all game, but you expect maybe, Clayton to come up with some big ones for Bruins, even if he was in there. But again, probably because he was getting more minutes on the bench, Bruins being very conservative about his injury. So making sure, of course, he's not aggravating it a lot more. So it'd be interesting to see. We'll see if he plays this week versus Fairfax and South County. Sure, 2 tough games coming up. We'll get into more of that in just a few minutes coming up here. Excuse me. Of course, we saw it in there that, of course, he's been a leading scorer this season. We keep talking about how he's kind of taken over him, Nate McComb. Really more so Clayton has been, I think, the one between the two. He's really been the one to stand out more so. It's been Clayton who's, kind of revived this Bruins offense, who's brought him a brand new look after, the horrible 3-20 season last year, arguably the worst season in Lake Braddock boys basketball history. And, he's averaging probably up there to around 20 points per game this year. And, of course, you could see what how huge of a difference maker he's been, even not being in there. He still played, but he didn't even score a single point too. That's also another big thing. So, again, we'll see what happens with Clayton, see how much of a difference maker he'll be. If he can even play it all on Tuesday tomorrow, we'll see. We'll see if he can play Friday for South County now. From what I saw, of course, he did start in that game on Thursday, so he should still be healthy enough to at least start again versus Fairfax tomorrow, as long as he didn't re-aggravate his injury, if that's the case. And so should expect him to be back in there if he's healthy. And so that being said, what will happen if he's not in there? Maybe we'll see a glimpse of maybe Xavier Maine getting more scoring opportunities. He's been a Bruins leading scorer the last few years. Maybe he'll take a step up kind of back into his old role of being kind of the lead scorer. It's not just, maybe running the offense more through guys like Clayton or McComan. It seems like Maine this year has become more of like, maybe a third option behind the other two that I just mentioned. So, we'll see what happens there. And yeah, so with this week, of course, we're going to kind of talk about those other couple of games coming up. With Fairfax, of course, they have their star Cam Yingling, who's averaging near 20 points per game this year. And as we've seen versus Lake Braddock with them this year, they showed, that they probably lose big time because they're being better by team's players solely. Because of this, it seems like, we've talked about, some of the other games previously in the season with Edison and Woodson. Edison, of course, has Isaiah Skin, the son of the George Mason head coach, Tony Skin in men's basketball. And then over at Woodson, you have the D1 prospect and sophomore phenomenon, Kalen Chilton, who kind of went off against him. And in that West Potomac game, it kind of seemed like it was, Dom Sanchez, their quarterback in football, to kind of just come away against the Bruins there. And so that's something that was going on. And so, the Bruins will really have to kind of keep, double down and try to really guard against that one, the team's best player that's really been hurting him this year, try to stop him and, try to find a way to stop those team's best players, because it just seems like every way we just keep getting that much. You can't be doing that, if you're trying to, let's just forget about trying to get the 1 or 2 seeds in the district. I think Lake Braddock, the way they are right now and how we've seen them play against South County and Woodson. Now, South County, they only lost 2 by 9 points. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Maybe if they ran the offense more through Clayton that game, maybe McComb, some of those other options. Again, we're trying to adjust the offense this year, trying to see what works. Again, with Maine still being here, being leading scorer, Clayton and McComb being brand new weapons. Now it's Clayton leading the offense, and you have McComb too. Coach Mitras had some trouble figuring out, okay, how are we going to distribute the ball evenly to have these guys get enough chances to score in the game and let us win some games too. So we'll see what happens with that. And so, but, again, we saw South County, that'll be an interesting game this week. We'll see what happens with Woodson as well down the stretch. But before, of course, we saw that the Bruins, got beat by Chilton. I know a couple other guys beat him, but Chilton scored the most points against him that game. And we already know, already that The Bruins are South County and Woodson. Those are two teams everyone's talking about all season that are probably going to win a district. I think more so right now between the two. I think Woodson is the better team right now. I think the Woodson and South County are playing one another this week. I think actually tomorrow. So that's probably the matchup to be at. As well as Lake Bragg versus Fairfax. That's also another very big matchup as well. But again, with the Bruins, we'll kind of see what they can do and see if they can kind of take that one guy down. And Yingling, now, again, another thing about this Fairfax team, they're a team that's kind of really been struggling this year. They've had some good offenses the last few years. Of course, Fairfax has been one of the better programs in the area. We're in a state tournament a few years ago. Alongside Hayfield, was the first year at Hayfield, won the first of their two state titles in that back-to-back span from 22 to 23. And Fairfax also been a big contender the last 2 years as well. This year, not so much. They started off this year 7-3. They've lost, I believe, 4 straight. So they're now, the last time I checked, they're 7-7 now. That's because of a lot of offensive struggles outside Cam Yingling. They've had a lot of trouble trying to get another double-digit score. I know Markley, that sophomore center they have, has been good. I think Jackson Young has been kind of good for him as well. Another good senior if they have alongside Yingling. But again, Fairfax, a lot less scoring for him this year. The thing, though, that's been kind of keeping them in games and winning games is, again, with kind of, same thing we talk about Westbo. Lost a lot of key players, Fairfax as well. They also lost a lot of other key players after last year. Cam Love, who's very good in football, they lost. Ronnie Peters. Those are a couple of the big names that pop up from a good 2024 class that they graduated. And so that will certainly play into effect. And again, Bruins facing another team like that. Western Wing team that they faced Thursday is probably going to be, at the very least, a relatively close game. Now, is this a game where I could see Lake Bragg getting blown out? Yes. I don't think it's going to be close to 30 points, though. Maybe more so, probably closer to the 20-point side of things. Just because Fairfax, kind of doesn't have, I think, some of the other elite level scores that we've seen maybe Woodson a team like that Woodson has. And, not just Chilton, it's kind of Theo Burke, Noah Limbago, Will Taylor, guys like that can cause big damage, just outside of their best player that they have. So I think that they got going for them. And we'll touch on the South County matchup this week. I think for Bruins, there's probably a chance they could win that game again. A lot of it has to do with whether or not Tyee Clayton is going to be healthy. Again, we talked about how in that game, if they didn't probably, spread the ball out as much as they wanted to score, so that's only why they only scored 44 points. But again, even against some of these good teams, Bruins are not really giving up very many points. 53 points, South County. That's not a lot at all. The only two true games I'd say for Bruins really, shot themselves in the foot on was that Edison game and the Woodson game. It kind of got outplayed. And again, I think it is a matter of being outplayed. I think, there is a sense where those two teams might be a little too good for Bruins this year. So again, kind of talk about, I do want to touch on this other point. How will the Bruins phase down a stretch in, when we're talking about getting postseason play? I think there's only about 3.5 weeks left of regular season. I think for Bruins, we talk about how competitive the 3 and 4 seeds are. I think the Bruins could very well finish up as one of those seeds, especially with how close they've played. But again, the key is also staying healthy. Key for his Bruins team is staying healthy. Goes for a lot of sports. Clayton, of course, staying healthy. Can he stay healthy? Hopefully what he hasn't worsened or isn't, going to get worse. Outside of him, Bruins have also had a couple of injuries this year. Khalid Cash, the all-region football cornerback, and a 3-year letterman in football now, or basketball, I should say. He's been injured this year. But I know he was taking some shots during practice before West Potomac game on Thursday. He should be close to come back, and another guy that Bruins need to get back. Was on a team last year, also played football this year, got injured, only played a few games during the football season. Walker Mitchell, he's a guy who the Bruins could probably get out there and could have some big things happen for him. So those two, have come back. And of course, we talked about this a while ago, 11 to Brown County. Apparently he's not on the roster anymore. Don't know why. But again, Apparently, I guess he's not going to be playing for the rest of the season for whatever reason. So Bruins kind of lack some center depth there. You'll probably see Xavier Maine stepping in at center more. I know he's kind of, Maine is a guy who can kind of place all over the place. So he'll probably kind of be the center depth behind Nate McComb whenever McComb's not out there. Riley Peterson's been coming off the bench a lot for Bruins, although he's a little bit shorter than McComb and Callanan have been. But, that's probably who you'll see now on with Callanan no longer being on the team, apparently. So you have that. But again, Bruins have to stay healthy. Dogfight for those 3 and 4 spots. So it's going to be very interesting to see down a stretch. And in terms of what to expect for Bruins, I think they could very well, get an automatic bid for a regional tournament, without having to play in one of those new play-in games that was introduced last year. And they'll probably, as far as terms of a regional tournament, I think they'll probably maybe win one game in the play-in round. They'll probably face, one of those crummy National District teams, not named Edison nor Woodson, or not Woodson, Hayfield. And they'll probably win one game. And quarterfinals will probably face some pretty tough opponent. Probably face a team like an Edison or Hayfield, maybe a Woodson as well, or South County. One of those teams. And that's probably a game where it could maybe play close, or if it's maybe a team that they face like Woodson, very well more likely Woodson I think has proven to be a lot better than Bruins this year. Probably a game where they kind of get, maybe not blown out as much, maybe in that game because the Bruins may adjust better by that time. Facing Woodson, they probably learned some mistakes from that first matchup, whatever it was. But we'll probably still get outscored by a good margin. And so that's my expectations for Bruins this year, sitting in 4th place right now. Still have a seed to automatically qualify for a regional tournament. In terms of going district, in terms of going to a district finals, depends on who they face. I think right now they'd be facing the winner of like the 6-7 seeded game in the district tournament. If the game were to end today, they're sitting at 4th seed right now. And I believe those two teams are I want to say West Springfield is one of them. Alexandria City, I think, is 8th. I'll go West Springfield and Robinson. So it would probably be one of those two teams. Bruins have not faced West Springfield yet. They're going to on the 27th. They faced Robinson on the road earlier this year. Beat them 49-43. So that's a close game. A team with some very good shooting. Bruins did a really good job countering that. So we'll see what happens with that. We're going to be facing the Rams next week on the 28th. So, again, never watch out for. But, again, Bruins are going to be getting a very busy stretch. They also believe have 4 games in 5 days next week. We'll talk more about that next week on the pod. So, yeah, we'll see what they do there. Again, still another interesting week for Bruins. Big week facing some tough Fairfax South County teams. They win versus South County would be a big statement win. Facing Fairfax team was also kind of had been on their level this year. Good defense. A little bit of struggles offensively, but again, still, kind of up there. Defense keeping them in games, still keeping them competitive with some of the better teams in the district, and still kind of showing that they can kind of keep up with the best of the people in the region. So we got coming up. Moving over to the girls' side now. We're gonna hit on some girls' hoops. Now the Bruins are 1-12. Coming off those losses versus Alexandria City and West Potomac last week in the middle of a 10-game losing streak. Now, I don't know if that's the worst in their history, but it has to be up there with one of the worst. And not just the worst losing streak, but probably the worst season ever in girls basketball history. Again, continues to be a really long season for them. Don't like saying that, but again, it's just kind of seems to be a case in a team that, hasn't had really a lot going for them this year. Maybe we expected, last week, I guess, on the bright side, we kind of expected that, maybe they show that same toughness and played as close as they did in the first half of a Woodson Oakton games. 2 really good teams, 2 state contenders again, which is what Bruins been facing all year. And, again, even though they lost this game, they, still played tough with them. They got so used to playing all some other state contender teams for Edison, Broad Run, Soco, Robinson. And they probably have gotten used to it at this point. You kind of expected that to show up. Maybe not a West Potomac game last week, because West Potomac is arguably the best team in the state right now. They're starting off, I believe, 13 or 14-0. on the season, are very good right now. Led by, Olivia Jones, Dawn Houston, Abby Bettis and company, and Coach Petroschi, I think is his name, replacing Coach Colligan. Could be wrong on that name. But you expected an AC game last week where Bruins were kind of in the same boat as them, struggling, not really winning a lot of games, trying to figure something out. ACVO's been more successful this season. They're 5-9 right now as of this recording. And then Bruins go out, lose to them in a 62-48 contest. I think Titans were a bit more physical than Bruins. They are, I think, bigger in size. But, again, pretty surprising loss there. You expect the Bruins to be a lot closer in that one, not losing by 24 points. And of course, they expect to get blown up by West Potomac. I believe that was 68-25 was the final of that one. Not good at all. And you kind of think, if this keeps up with the Bruins, I kind of think, is Coach Reed, possibly going to be on the hot seat? Now, probably not this year, but again, maybe, next year, following year after that. Do you think, maybe the Bruins maybe go in a different direction? Maybe they want to, bring another coach to kind of revitalize girls basketball program has been, I think, for the most part, kind of consistent throughout their history. They do have a state title to their name. But again, we'll see kind of what happens with the Bruins. But again, I think, these next few years are, of course, going to be very important for Coach Reed, kind of seeing what she has working with a lot of talent, especially not having someone as talented as Sarah Pritz, or anyone like that on the team right now. We'll kind of see if anyone comes up through the rankings. And, but if, she's not doing some, putting good teams together out there, or teams that at very least can compete with other ones, most of the time, then we'll kind of see if the Bruins want to go in a different direction with that. So I think that was kind of an important point to bring up. And so in terms of games this week, we'll just kind of get like the obvious one out of the way. South County, they've already faced the season. They got blown out, 63-17 last time. It was a really bad score, almost 50 points that they got blown out by. And, probably again, that game's at Soco on Friday. Probably not going to win. Definitely not going to win that one. I shouldn't say probably. Definitely not going to win that one. So Bruins try their luck with probably a struggling Fairfax team this week. And you might say, oh, they think they get a break with teams like Fairfax, these bad teams like Fairfax or Alexandria City. I don't think you can say that anymore. I think with the Bruins, you never really know, regardless of how bad of a team they're facing. We thought that with AC. We thought it was going to be, close game. We thought, Bruins might lose, but it would be relatively close at the very least. Then it ends up being a 24-point blowout between the two. So again, Fairfax 3-9 as of right now. So, that's a game, probably, again, where you say the same thing, the same thing we're facing, where you could kind of say same thing facing a state contender. It could be an absolute blowout, or it could be, relatively close. You kind of don't know. So again, it'll be interesting. It's also getting to the point where it's going to be, interesting against these other bad teams. These teams are not even close to being state contenders. So we'll see what that happens. I think the one thing, though, the Bruins do have going from that game is they have played a much tougher schedule than the Lions have. The Bruins facing all those state contenders that we mentioned before. Fairfax, not so much, really only a district, but the Bruins have faced a ton of state contenders in out of district play: Oakton, Broad Run, Edison, Chantilly, teams like that again. And so we'll kind of see what happens there, and maybe they have the edge. Maybe they say, hey, we faced so much this year. This Fairfax team doesn't really know what they're expecting. We've already, playing against those tough teams, we've kind of already played it. So we have an edge. We've got the upper hand. We've got some momentum going in. And so we feel really confident going into this one. But again, Bruins will still have to remain level-headed if they want to pull off a win that one, probably, so you try to look to end that 10-game losing streak of theirs. So we'll kind of see what happens there. Check the mailbag. Is there any questions? We do not. Again, thank you everyone for tuning in today in this short 25-minute episode of the Adam Hazara Show. and we'll see you guys next time.